During my boomer shooter binge, I have played a fair share of games. Some of them I have loved, some of them I had to drop. The more I explore the genre, the more a few things become clear to me. It's not enough to ape the aesthetics and gameplay feel of 90s shooters. You also need to make the gunplay, the mechanics, everything feel good and satisfying to play. Dread Templar is a fantastic example of this. Among its peers, it may look like yet another demon slaying fest. Even watching other people's videos on it, I see the constant comparisons to Doom. But as I play it myself while having studied and learned the genre and its history a bit better, I say it's a bit further from Doom and leaning more into a mix of Blood 2 and Quake. Why am I making this comparison? You will see once we cover the basics, of course. In this game, we get to play as the titular Dread Templar, a warrior of the Order sent through a portal into what seems to be leaning more towards a hellish void rather than hell itself. His mission is to find and kill the demon that killed his grandfather, the previous Dread Templar, when he was a kid, and get his revenge. And that's about it. In fact, the very few flavortext cutscenes the game has are more dedicated to explain why are you down there slaying demons to begin with. And I think the game is better for it, because true to its peers, this game is gameplay focused, and in a very glorious way. I made the comparison to Blood 2 and Quake for two reasons. The game is leaning a lot more onto the spooky horror vibe, with the difference being of course that unlike Blood 2, Dread Templar is actually a good game. The Quake comparison comes mostly from how the shooting and the level design is put together. It's linear and yet it is designed in a way where you can actually backtrack if you feel like hunting for secrets and Easter eggs. Since we don't talk about the combat, I have mentioned before that one of the bigger trappings of its genre, and maybe FPS games in general, is how the starting pistol eventually gets phased out in favor of stronger guns, and how that frustrates me. Because in a moment of need, using the pistol starts to make enemies feel like bullet sponges. This does not happen in this game. Much to my delight, your entire arsenal is extremely versatile. While the strength and firepower can vary, all of the guns in the game can keep you alive if you know what you are doing, but it will also require you to play it smart. Because depending on your playstyle, you can burn through ammo fast, so you can't just rely on one specific gun, and you will want to save others for heavy hitters or to get yourself out of a tight spot. The versatility of the combat is also enhanced greatly by the rune system. I was tempted to call it an upgrade system, but the reality is that it is not. Upgrade systems tend to have the bad habit of making you feel weak and the combat sluggish until you level up. That doesn't happen in this game. The rune system here is more of a side grade system. In order to unlock rune slots, you have to consume blood crystals, but rather than letting you have everything and become overpowered, you end up having to make up your own build. Some runes will give you the usual advantages like extra ammo and better damage, but you can also gain runes that give extra effects to your guns, if not changing them altogether into different guns. The awesome part that quickly made me fall in love with the system is that you can actually swap your runes around. So if a certain build is not working out for you, you can try something that can fit your situation a lot better. Do you want a sniper shotgun that never loses its punch no matter how far you shoot it, letting you tear into tougher enemies or smaller ones trying to pelt you with projectiles? Do you want a triple shotgun that can slice through hordes of enemies, allowing you to do some serious crowd control if you're getting overwhelmed by enemies? Do you want to turn your SMGs into miniguns that can melt through tougher enemies but can also burn through your ammo in seconds? Do you want Hellfire pistols that shoot armor-piercing bullets, allowing you to deal with multiple enemies as they rush towards you? Those are the kinds of questions you find yourself asking. The best part is, the game is paced in a way where if you play it smart, you can consume your ammo in the right quantities and have supplies waiting for you both during and after your encounters. Now, having said all of this, before you even get to unlock those runes, you need to find the blood crystals required, and that's where the level design in this game truly gets to shine. True to the genre, Every level has its share of secrets. Little places with ammo and health stashes in case you are running low, and the occasional altars where you can change your runes. But to make the most of the system, however, this game has something I don't think I have seen in the genre so far: super secrets and side areas. The latter are essentially little challenge areas. You get teleported to a hidden part of the map where you have to face harder battles than the normal path, or just doing a navigation challenge, and some really fun ones at that. Sometimes they may fall into trial and error territory, but thankfully they never become too frustrating, again because the level design is so good and so tight that it gives you the means to change your runes to fit your situation. The former are the biggest reason I am praising the level design. Super secrets are essentially puzzles. The solution is often scattered around the level or focused on one specific place, since the levels are linear but with backtracking available. It means you can spend a bit of time solving those puzzles right after you finish clearing out the enemy. Not to mention that it adds a very sweet sense of pacing, and giving you quiet time so you can digest and take a breather from the more intense battles, and be ready when the next big gunfight comes up. Now, on paper this might sound like the levels can get a bit long, but what helps a lot with the pacing is that it mixes things up with a different kind of challenge as you try to solve the puzzles. And while they are not too complicated, they are fun and come with the payoff of giving you those much needed blood crystals and runes. I also want to praise it because it's both giving you replayability in case you missed it in your first run, and also because it's entirely optional. Like other great bits of extra gameplay, it's there for you if you want to look for it. I don't think there is any real flaws I could point out about this game. The entire experience felt near perfect. There were only a few times where I got stuck dying all over in some areas or against bosses, or retrying some side areas due to some small difficulty spikes. But those, I consider them just part of the experience, and I would rather have that, because it means they are things to overcome, rather than just letting you breeze through the game and making it all boring. I guess the only real sin this game commits is being a late comer into the genre. On paper you will think this is another demon slaying ordeal, but once you play it proper, you find out there is a lot more than meets the eye. This game could have played it safe and set itself in the usual hell. Instead, the world you'll visit is a lot closer to Limbo, and I call that mostly thanks to the flavor text. Declaring this monster plague dimension is where things that died and got forgotten by time end up. You start with the typical bloody stuff with things like a graveyard, forgotten cliffs, factories of bile and industrialized death. But then the game takes a turn, and suddenly you find yourself in some glacial Viking ruins. Climbing the carcass of a destroyed ship, finding around the halls of an ancient library, or even navigating through the sand-ridden tombs of ancient Egypt. All of it accompanied by some of the best music I had the pleasure to hear while fighting the forces of evil. If everything I said so far hasn't made it clear, when the fights get going and you get a whole lot of enemies thrown at you, the game becomes pure adrenaline. Made better by how battles can range from regular small encounters to straight up wars where you happily slaughter your way through. And you have to be smart about it, because even on normal difficulty, I had moments where I started dying a bunch of times. This is not a game where you just steamroll through everything or just get a power trip. You have to learn to know what you are doing or you are going to be destroyed. Long story short, I think Dread Templar is one of the best boomer shooters I played. It deserves to stand right there with gems like Dusk and a Medieval. That's just how great I think it is. Everything about this game tells me it is a love letter to FPS games of that entire era. There is are people who grew up with the genre and its shows. It even feels like we're from the same generation, because I ended up understanding nearly every single reference and Easter egg hidden around. It just feels good. Really good. This is the kind of game I hope gets a sequel, and one that reminds me how much of a mistake it was for me to not get into the genre sooner. So in a way, I am grateful a good friend of mine got me hooked by sharing the ones he played and encouraging me to play them too, because now I'm 100% a fan, and I still have some games in my library and my hard drive that I can't wait to talk about. So I guess we can say that while it is a shame I got late into the genre, we can also say that at the very least, it's better to get in late than never getting into it at all.